First question says that the table shows the distance in kilometers each of 6 people travel to get a train station. So we have 6 different people and we have the distances in this table. On the grid, draw a bar chart to show this information. So when we're drawing a bar chart, you need to remember a few things. First thing is that you need to label your axis, you need to label your x-axis and the y-axis. Second thing is that you need to make sure that the width of your bars is the same for each bar. And third thing you need to remember is that you need to make sure that there's a scale for your y-axis. For Ted, it's 7. For Yui, it's 12. For Barney, it's 10. Ichika has 5. Wilfred has 4. And Bella has 9 kilometers. The thing we'll do is we'll draw our axis. So this is our y-axis. This is our x-axis. This is the origin. So on the x-axis, we're going to have the names of people. On the y, we're going to have distance in kilometers. Now, if we look at the distances, the highest value is 12 and the lowest value is 4. So you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then over here, we can write T. Then we have Y for Yui, B for Bani, I for Ichika, W is Wilfred, and Bella. So now for the first person, your distance is 7 kilometers. So you draw a bar of 7 kilometers. Then it's 12. So at UE, we draw a bar of 12 kilometers. Then Barney is 10. So same thing. Shika is 5, so that's going to be this. Then Wilfred is 4. And lastly, Bella is 9. So this is your bar chart. As you can see, all the bars have the same width. We label the axis. We created a scale for the y-axis as well. Question 2 says on the grid, draw a shape that is congruent to shape J. So since we have to draw a shape that is congruent to shape J, so it's going to be this. It's exactly the same as shape J. Congruent shapes are those shapes which look exactly the same. They are identical in size and they're identical in shape. So that means corresponding sides and angles are going to be equal. Hence, this is your shape that is congruent to shape J. Then it says on the grid, draw a shape that is an enlargement of shape J with scale factor 2. So scale factor of 2 means that each length of shape J is multiplied by 2. So this length over here, it's going to become 2. 2 is going to become 4. 3 will be 6. 1 will become 2. And 2 will be 4. This is your enlarged shape. Once again, each length for the original shape J is multiplied by 2. So if it's the length of 1, 1 times 2 is 2. So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 3 becomes 6, and 2 becomes 4. And the next question says, the next part says that the diagram shows shape K Shape K has exactly one line of symmetry. Draw this line of symmetry on shape K. So the line of symmetry is going to be this. As you can see, this line equally divides the shape into two equal parts, and both those sides are identical. Then says diagram shows shape L drawn on a centimeter grid. Work out the perimeter of L. Since the question says that it's a centimeter grid, that means one box is 1 centimeter. So this length is 3, this is 2, this one is 5, 1, 2, and 1. So the perimeter is your sum of all sides, which is basically the boundary of the shape. So that's 3 plus 2 plus 5 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1. And that is going to give us 14 centimeters. Then part C says work out the area of shape L. So for the area of a shape L, we can see that's a compound shape. So for compound shapes, it's always advised to split the shape into other shapes that are easier to solve. So we can see that when we split this shape vertically like this, we can see that we have two rectangles. This rectangle has the dimensions of 3 and 2, and this one has 1 and 2. So area is going to be 2 times 3, which is the area of this part, plus area of this part, which is 1 times 2. That's 6 plus 2, and that's 8 centimeters square. That's the answer. Next question says that write these numbers in numerical order. Start with the smallest number. So remember, when you're given positive and negative numbers are smaller than positive numbers. No matter how big the number is, if it has a negative sign attached to it, the bigger the number is, if it has a negative sign, it's the smallest. So over here, in numbers, biggest is 89, but since it has a negative sign, so negative 89 is the smallest. Then we have negative 77. After that, we have negative 6. Then we have 39. And lastly, 43. So these are the numbers rearranged in ascending order, starting with the smallest. Then it says write these decimals in order of size, starting with the smallest decimal. So smallest decimal over here is 0.017. Then we have 0.12, 0.134, 0.145, and lastly 0.3. When comparing decimals, you're supposed to compare your first decimal place. So first decimal place is smallest for 0.017. Then for the other numbers, 0.12, 0.13, 0.145. All three have the same first decimal place, which is 1. So now we compare the second decimal place. So when you compare the second decimal place, 0.12 is the smallest. Then we have 0.134 and then 0.145. And lastly, 0.3 has the biggest first decimal place, hence it's the largest number. Then write 0.7 as a percentage. To write any number, whether it's a decimal, fraction, or like a whole number as a percentage, you need to times it by 100. So 0.7 times 100 is 70%. Then write 27 over 100 as a decimal. That's going to be 0.27. Remember, every whole number has a decimal at its end, whether we write it or not. So this 27 over 100, the 27 over here has a decimal at its end, because 27 is the same as 27.0. So now since 27 is being divided by 100, and 100 has 2 zeros, we move the decimal 2 places to the left. And when you move it 2 places to the left, 27 over 100 becomes 0.27. Then it says that there are 60 plants in a plant stall. 7 over 10 of the plants are vegetable plants. work out how many of the plants are not vegetable plants. So if out of the 60 plants, 7/10 of the plants are given as vegetable plants. So to figure out how many plants are not vegetable plants, we will subtract 7/10 from 1 first. Because from one whole of the plants, we're saying that 7/10 are not vegetable plants. So that means 3/10 are going to be not vegetable plants. And now to find the number, because it says how many, not the fraction, we will multiply number of not vegetable plants is going to be 3/10 times 60, which is 18. 18 plants are not vegetable plants. An alternative method for this was that you could have found 7/10 of 60, which will give you the number of vegetable plants. So when you find 7/10 of 60, that's basically 42. So if 42 plants are vegetable plants, not vegetable are going to be 60 minus 42, which is 18. Either way, you're getting the same answer, so you can pick whatever method you think is most easy for you and less time consuming. Question 4 says, here are the first 5 terms of a number sequence. The terms are 106, 99, 92, 85, and 78. Write down the next term of the sequence. So to figure out the next term of the sequence, we need to see what pattern is being followed. We need to see what pattern is being followed in the sequence. So 106 is going to 99. Let's see what 106 minus 99 is. Now 106 minus 99 is 7. That means we are subtracting 7 over here. Now 99 minus 7 is 92. 92 minus 85 is also 7. And 85 minus 7 is also 78. So as you can see, we're subtracting 7 from each consecutive term. So for the next term, we'll do 78 minus 7, which is 71. Explain how you found your answer to part A1. We found the common difference. Which is 7. In other words, your term-to-term rule was subtracting 7. So we could also write that term-to-term rule is subtracting 7. Then it says the 9th term of the sequence is 50. Work out the 12th term of the sequence. So if the 9th term is 50, if we subtract 7 from 50, that's going to give us 43. So that's the 10th term. Then if we subtract 7 from 43, that's going to give us 36. So that's the 11th term. And 36 minus 7 is going to give us 29. So 29 is the 12th term. This is your 9th term. This is your 10th term. This is the 11th, and this is the 12th term. We subtracted 7 from each consecutive term to reach to the next one. Then it says, Umberto says 7 is a term in the sequence. Umberto is wrong. Explain why. So based on our answer in the previous part, we reached to T12, 12th term, which was 29. So the 13th term is going to be 29 minus 7, which is 22. Then the 14th term is going to be 22 minus 7, which is 15. So 15th term is going to be 15 minus 7, and that is 8. So as you can see, 15th term is 8. And 16th would be 8 minus 7, and that's 1. So as you can see, Alberto is wrong because throughout the sequence, we did not reach 7, we reached 8. So 7 is your term-to-term rule. Because you're subtracting it. So there's a difference between the two things. 8 and 1 are the smallest terms that we're getting, not 7. But 7 is what we're subtracting from each term to get the next number in the sequence. Then question 5 says Percy has 2 fair spinners. Spinner A is 4-sided and can land on 1, 1, 2, or 3. Spinner B is 5-sided and land on 5, 7, 8, 9, or 11. Percy spins each spinner once. He subtracts the number that spinner A lands on from the number that spinner B lands on to get his score. Complete the table to show all the possible scores. So very simple, you just have to subtract your scores between spinner A and spinner B to get the final score. So as you can see, 5 minus 1 is 4. 5 minus 2 would be 3. So 5 minus 3 would be 2. 7 minus 1, 6. 8 minus 1, 7. 8 minus 2, 6. 9 minus 1 is going to be 8. 9 minus 2, 7. 9 minus 3, 6. 11 minus 1 is 10. So these are your final scores. He says find the probability that Percy's score is an even number. So let's rewrite the scores over here. This was 3, 2, 6, 6, 7, 6, 8, 7, and 6, and 10. So let's highlight the boxes which have an even score. So that's going to be these, this one, this one, these two, another one, and these. So the total number of boxes which have an even score are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 out of the total scores are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 13 out of 20. Because we have a total of 20 scores, and out of those 20 scores, 13 are even. Then Percy's score is greater than 7. So now for greater than 7, let's remove these. Greater than 7 is given with these two and these 4. You can easily see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 greater than 7 out of 20. So 6 over 20 can also be simplified to 3 over 10. That's your answer. Question 6 says there are 150 animals on a farm. Of these animals, 19 are sheep, 32 are goats, 3 are dogs. The rest of the animals are chickens. Write the number of chickens as a fraction of the total number of animals. Give your fraction in its simplest form. So we have to write the number of chickens as a fraction of the total number of animals. So we have 19 sheep, 32 goats, and 3 dogs. So chickens are going to be 150 minus the number of sheep minus the number of goats and dogs. So that's going to give us 96. So there are 96 chicken. So to write the number of chickens as a fraction of the total number of animals, that's going to be 96 over 150. Now let's simplify this. 96 and 150 both come in the 3 times table. So that's going to be 32 over 50. 32 and 50 both come in the 2 times table. So that's 16 over 25. We can't further simplify this, so your fraction is 16 over 25. Question 7 says, 2 jugs each contain 350 milliliters of milk. 5 bottles each contain Y milliliters of milk. Peter tips all the milk from the 2 jugs and the 5 bottles into a container. The total number of milk that Peter tips into the container is 2.8 liters. Work out the value of Y. So 2 times 350 plus 5 times Y equals to 2.8 times 1000. One jug contains 350 milliliters of milk. So 2 jugs will contain 2 times 350, which is 700. 5 bottles each contain Y milliliters of milk. So 5 times Y, which is 5Y. Now when Peter tips all of the milk from the 2 jugs and 5 bottles into a container, the total milk is coming out as 2.8 liters. If you notice, these are given in milliliters. So to convert the liters into milliliters, we multiply 2.8 by 1000 because 1 liter equals to 1000 milliliters. So 2.8 times 1000 is going to be 2800. Now, as you can see, we have all of the measurements in milliliters. So we can do 5y equals to 2800 minus 700, which is equal to 2100. Then divide 2100 by 5. And that is going to give us 420 milliliters. That is your final answer. Then question 8 says, Bargain Crafts and Art Store each have a special offer on tins of crayons. Bargain Crafts offers that the crayons are $4.20 per tin, and the special offer is that pay for 2 tins, get 1 tin free. Then at Art Store, pack of 5 tins of crayons is for $18. And the special offer is that 25% off each pack of 5 tins. So Heidi buys 30 tins of crayons from Bargain Crafts using the special offer, and Amir buys 30 tins of crayons from Art Store using the special offer. Work out the difference between the amount that Heidi pays and the amount that Amir pays. So for Heidi, she pays for 2 tins and get 1 free. She's buying 30 tins. So for Heidi, for every 2 tins, 1 is free. So 2 plus 1 free. So that equals to 3. So that means she's using this offer 10 times. So for 1 tin, the cost is 4.20. So 4.20 times 2, that equals to $8.40. Now she uses this offer, like I said, 10 times. So total cost would be 8.40 times 10, which is $84. That is what Heidi is spending. Once again, if she buys 2, she gets 1 free. So since she has 30 tins, she buys 2 tins, she gets 1 free. So that's 3 tins in total. So since they're 30, that means she used this offer 10 times. So we found the cost for one offer, which is going to be $8.40. And then we times that by 10 to get the total cost that she spends for 30 tins, which is $84. Now we move on to Mir. So for him, the offer is that 25% off each pack of 5 tins. So pack of 5 tins is costing 18 pounds. So pack of 5 tins of crayons is costing him $18. So 25% of that is going to be $4.5. This is the discount that he's getting. So his cost of 5 tins is 18 minus 4.5, which is equal to $13.5. So for the cost of 30 tins, it's going to be 13.5 times 6, because if the cost of 5 tins is 13.5, the cost of 30 tins would be 13.5 times 6, which is going to give us $81. So now the difference is going to be 84 minus 81, which is $3. That's the answer. Then question 9 says a circle has a radius of 9 centimeters. Calculate the area of the circle. So formula for the area of a circle is basically pi r square. Radius is 9, so we do pi times 9 square, which is going to give us 254.5 centimeters square. We want the answer in 3 significant figures, so we will round this to 255 centimeters square. That's the area of the circle. Question 10 says diagram shows a shape drawn on a centimeter grid. On the centimeter grid below, draw a rectangle that has the same area as shape A. So for the shape to have the same area as shape A, we need to count the total number of squares that are inside the shape. So over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 squares in total. So on the grid below, we'll draw a shape which exactly has 24 squares inside its boundary. So now, for it to have 24 squares inside its boundary, we can make it simple. We can draw a shape which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 by 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So they haven't put a restriction on us. The only restriction is that the shape needs to have the same area as shape A. And since the area of shape A is 24 centimeters square, since it says draw a rectangle, so you can draw any combination for the rectangle. 6 by 4, 8 by 3, 2 by 12. I don't think 2 by 12 is applicable, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is. So you can create any of these combinations. 1 by 24 is not applicable because the grid isn't that big, but you can do 6 by 4 and 2 by 12. Either of these 3 combinations will get you a mark. Question 11 says that simplify E times E times E times E times E. So we're multiplying 5 E's. Now remember, when you're multiplying variables, you change the power, not the coefficient. Coefficient changes when you're adding variables. So over here, since we're multiplying 5 E's and each of these E's have a power of 1, it's going to be E to the power of 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 E's. So we have 5 ones being added. So that's going to be E to the power of 5. Once again, the power changes in multiplication, the coefficient changes in addition. So they've given the same case in part B where they're adding variables now. So now we're adding 3 m's. So it's going to be 3m, not m to the power of 3. Then it says simplify 3g square plus 7g square minus 4g square. So now they have put powers and coefficients with the same variable. So since we're again adding and subtracting, we're not going to change the power of g. we're going to change the coefficient of g. So 3g squared plus 7g squared is 10g squared minus 4g squared, which is 6g squared. So 6g squared is our answer. Then it says expand a brackets a plus a. So when you're expanding brackets, you're basically multiplying the term outside the bracket with the terms inside the bracket. So that's a times a plus a times 8, which is a squared plus 8a. That's your answer. Then it says factorize 15x plus 20. We're trying to factorize an expression. We're basically trying to find what the highest common factor is between the terms. So as you can see, between 15 and 20, the highest common factor is 5 because both come in the 5 times table. So when you take 5 common, 15x divided by 5 is 3x, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. So 5 times 3x plus 4 is a factorized version for this expression. Then the next question says that Sophia sells D packs of toy cars and H boxes of toy cars. Each pack contains 3 toy cars and each box contains 5 toy cars. The total number of toy cars that Sophia sells is T. Write on a formula for T in terms of T and H. So T equals to 3D plus 5H. As you can see, each pack contains 3 toy cars. So if they're D bags, so 3 times D, and they're H boxes, and each box contains 5 cars, so 5 times H. And they want the total number of cars, which is T. So capital T equals to 3D plus 5H. Question 12 says Shane buys a clock in Australia. The clock costs 232 Australian dollars. In India, an identical clock costs 12,420 Indian rupees. The exchange rate is 1 Australian dollar equals to 54 Indian rupees. The clock costs more in Australia than in India. Work out how much more. You must give the units of your answer. So what we know is that 1 Australian dollar is equal to 54 Indian rupees. So let's convert the 232 Australian dollars into Indian rupees. 232 times 54, which is going to give us 12,528 Indian rupees. Question said that in India, the same clock was available in 12,420. So if we subtract the two, we can see by how much the clock is expensive in Australia. So 12,528 minus 12,420, and that is going to give us 108 Indian rupees. Why Indian rupees? Because we're comparing the Indian rupees. We're not comparing Australian dollars. If we were comparing Australian dollars, then we should have converted the 12,420 into Australian dollars by dividing it by 54. So if we do that, 12,420 divided by 54, that's 230. So 232 minus 230 is 2 Australian dollars. And 2 Australian dollars is 108 Indian rupees. So if we do the calculation Australian dollars, then your answer should be 2 Australian dollars. If we're doing it Indian rupees, then your answer would be 108 Indian rupees. $2 Australian dollars is the alternate answer. Question 13 says, Tom wants to knit an item for a baby. He can knit a jumper, J, or a blanket, B, or a hat, H, or some socks, S. He can knit using white wool, W, or using yellow wool, Y. Tom chooses one item to knit and chooses one color of wool. Write down all the possible combinations for the item that Tom could knit. So if he's knitting a jumper, the jumper can be white, the jumper can be yellow. If he's knitting a blanket, the blanket can be white, the blanket can be yellow. If he's knitting a hat, the hat can be white, the hat can be yellow. If he's knitting socks, the socks can be white and the socks can be yellow. So these are all the possible combinations for the item that Tom could knit. Question 14 says, describe fully the single transformation that maps shape A onto shape B. Shape A onto shape B is a 180 degrees rotation about the center 0, 0. Why? Because we can see that the distance of this point and this point is the same from the origin. That's the first thing. And secondly, it cannot be a reflection. So a reflection would have meant that the direction is opposite for the shape. For this, imagine if you're rotating it 90 degrees, it's going to look like this. And then again, 90 is going to look like this. So that's why it's a 180 degrees rotation about the origin. It says on the grid reflect shape A in the line with the equation y equals to -1. Draw a line at y equals to -1 first. Now this shape is going to be reflected in the line y equals to -1, which is basically in the x-axis if you come to think about it. So this point is 2 units from the mirror line. So it's going to be 2 units from the mirror line on the other side as well. Distance is 2 between these two, so distance is going to remain same between each point. 3, 3, 1, 1. Connect the dots. And as you can see, the size of the shape has not changed. The only thing that's changed is the direction of the shape. And that because it's a reflection of the line y equals to -1. Question 15 says, we have a universal set which includes the value 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Set A has the values of 11, 14, 16, 19, and set B has the values of 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Complete the Venn diagram. So first thing, we need to identify what are the common elements between set A and set B. As you can see, they both have 14 and they both have 16. So the common elements are going to come in the overlapping region, which is this part, because both the circles are overlapping over here. Then that leaves for set A 11 and 19. And for set B, we have 12, 15, 18, and 20. Now, is there anything that comes outside? Let's check the universal set. So in the universal set, there's a 13, which is in neither of these sets. So 13 is over here. 14, 15, 16 have been used. 17 is also outside. And that's about it. So 17 and 13 are outside. 14 and 16 are the common elements. And everything else comes separately in set A and set B based on the elements given for them. Question 16 says use a calculator to work out the value of 17.9 divided by 8.61 plus 2.36 minus 1.2 square. Give your answer as a decimal. Write on all the figures on your calculator display. So as they've said is you have to solve this directly in the calculator. So first, divide 17.9 by the sum of 8.61 plus 2.36. So remember, when you're doing this, add brackets around 8.61 plus 2.36 because that would make sure that you're doing it correctly. Because if you just do 17.1 divided by 8.61 plus 2.36, that sounds like you're doing 17.9 divided by 8.61 first, and then you're adding 2.36 to that. So to avoid that error, add brackets around 8.61 plus 2.36. So The division gives us 1.631722, like it's a big number. And from this, now we're subtracting 1.2 square from this. So that's going to be 0.1917228805,834. That is your complete figure on the calculator display. So remember to add the brackets around 8.61 plus 2.36. And once you have the result of this division, then you subtract 1.2 square from that. And the first question says here are 8 numbers written in order of size: H, 6, 7, 8, F, 16, K, K, where H, J, and K are integers. The median of the 8 numbers is 10, the mode of the 8 numbers is 18, and the range of the 8 numbers is 13. Work out the value of H, J, and K. So if the mode is 18, so we have K occurring twice, which automatically means that the value of K is going to be 18. Now for H and J, it says that the range of the 8 numbers is 13, which means if this is 18 and H is the smallest number, so 13 would equal to 18 minus H. Range is the difference between the maximum and the minimum value. 18 is the maximum value and H is the minimum value. So that means H is going to be 18 minus 13, which is 5. So right now we have this as 5, this as 18. Now for J, we know that the median of the 8 numbers is 10. So this is 18, and this is 5. So median is basically your middle value. So we have total of 8 numbers. So 8 is an even number. So that means the data set has even numbers. So we're going to have 2 middle values over here. These 2 are right in the middle. Since these 2 are right in the middle, the value that's right in the middle of 8 and F is going to be the median. So basically 8 plus F divided by 2 equals to the median value, which is 10. That means 8 plus F equals to 10 times 2, which is 20. So F is going to be the difference of 20 and 8, and that is 12. So that's J, not F, my bad. So J is 12. Once again, when you have an even number of data set, you can't just pick a number that's right in the middle because like they're even numbers. So you pick the 2 numbers that come in the middle of the data set, which was 8 and J. Then you find the average of 8 and J because the median value lies right between those 2 values. So hence you found the average of 8 and J, which is giving us the value of 12 for J. So H is 5, J is 12, K is 18. These are your answers. Question 2 says, on the grid, draw the straight line with the equation y equals to 2. Then we have x equals to 6 and y equals to x plus 1. So y equals to 2 is going to be a line that's passing through y equals to 2. That is this one. This is your y equals to 2 line. Then x equals to 6 is going to be a line that's passing through x equals to 6, which is going to be this vertical line. Y equals to x plus 1 means that we have the y-intercept of 1, which means the line is passing through here. And for the other point, we know that when y is 0, x is going to be -1. And when x is 0, y is going to be 1, which is the y-intercept. -1 is the x-intercept. So we don't have a -1 over here, so that means going to go over here. Since we don't have the negative axis, so for the positive axis, let's put like x equals to 4 over here. So at x equals to 4, y is going to be 4 plus 1, which is 5. So 4, 5 is our other point. So we can just join these 2 points and draw our line. So this is your y equals to x plus 1. After that says, show by shading on the grid the region that satisfies all 3 of the inequalities, where y is greater than equal to 2. So y is greater than equal to 2. That means we're going to shade the values that are above the line, because we're talking about the values where y is more than equal to 2. So values of y are increasing. So that's above it. Then x is less than equal to 6. Since it's less than equal to 6, that means the values of x are decreasing now. So it's going to be on the left-hand side of the graph. So that's all of these. Now, if you notice, the middle area is overlapping for both the two inequalities. Then lastly, y is less than equal to x plus 1. So if it's less than equal to x plus 1, that means we look at the values under the line, because that's where the values of y are decreasing. So that's all of this. So now the overlapping region is the middle part. So if we remove all the extra shading over here, let's do this again. So this is your region that satisfies the inequality. This is region R. So once again, if it's less than, we look at the values where the y values are decreasing or x values are decreasing, depending on what the inequality is. If it's greater than, then we look at where the values are increasing. And in case, if it was like x is, let's say, greater than 2, let's say. So now when it's just greater than or less than, your line for the graph is going to be a dotted line. It's not going to be a solid straight line. But when it's equal to, like greater than equal to or less than equal to, then it's a solid straight line. So for greater than or less than, it's a dotted line. And if it's less than or greater than equal to, it's a straight line. So you need to be very careful about these. This is the graph. This is the inequality. In question 3, it says that a plane takes 9 hours 36 minutes to fly from New Delhi to Perth. The plane flies at an average speed of 820 kilometers per hour. Work out the total distance the plane flies. So total distance in this case would have the formula of average speed multiplied by time. So if you notice, the average speed is in terms of kilometers per hour, and your time is in hours and minutes. So you need to convert the minutes into hours, and then we can use that to find the distance. So we know that 1 hour equals to 60 minutes. So we know that 1 hour equals to 60 minutes. So 1 minute equals to 1 over 60 hours. So we do 820 times 9 plus 36 over 60, We're converting the 36 minutes into hours by dividing by 60, and then we add those hours to the 9 hours. So that's basically going to give us 820 times 9.6, which equals 7,872 kilometers. That is your distance that the plane flies. Then it says show that 2 whole number 4 over 7 times 3 whole number 1 over 9 equals to 8. So we have two mixed numbers being multiplied. So in order to solve this, we need to convert the mixed numbers into improper fraction first. So to convert a mixed number into an improper fraction, we multiply the denominator with the whole number and then add the result to the numerator. So looking at the first fraction, the denominator is 7, so we times that by the whole number. So 7 times 2 is 14. Add that to the numerator. 14 plus 4 is 18. So 18 over 7 times, same step, multiply the denominator with the whole number. So 9 times 3 is 27. Add that to the numerator. So 27 plus 1 is 28. So we have 18 over 7 times 28 over 9. Now, whenever we have fractions being multiplied, you can simplify the fractions vertically and diagonally, not horizontally. Horizontally, you can only multiply the numbers, but vertically and diagonally, you can simplify them. So if we notice, 18 and 9 come in the same times table. 9 ones are 9, 9 twos are 18. And 7 and 28 also come in the same times table. 7 ones are 7, 7 fours are 28. 2 times 4, and that's 8. We don't write 2 times 4 over 1 times 1 because 1 times 1 is 1, and in every whole number, we have a denominator of 1, but we don't always write it. So we just write 2 times 4, and that's 8. And that's exactly what the question was asking us to prove, that when you multiply the two mixed numbers, your result should be 8. Question 5 says the diagram shows triangle ABC. Work out the value of x. So as you can see, we have a right angle triangle. And in a right angle triangle, if they have given us a length and an angle, and they want us to find another length, we can easily use SOHCAHTOA. In the case they only give us two lengths and they want us to find the third length, then we use Pythagoras. So remember, SOHCAHTOA is used when they're asking you to find a length and the angle is given, or they've given us the length and they're asking you to find the angle. So SOHCAHTOA always involves the angle, whereas Pythagoras only involves the lengths of the right angle triangle. So keeping that in mind, we can see that we have angle A. We need to find x. Now x is the opposite of this triangle, like for the length. Why is it the opposite? Because the length that is always opposite the angle, that's called the opposite. The diagonal, which is the slant length, that's always the hypotenuse. And the length on which the angle lies, that's always the adjacent. So if you remember this order of what is going to be the opposite, the adjacent, and hypotenuse, you will not get your SOHCAHTOA question wrong. So since we've established what our opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse is going to be, now we figure out which trig ratio we'll use from SOHCAHTOA. So based on the information given, we have the angle, we have the hypotenuse, and they want us to find the opposite. So opposite and hypotenuse both come in sine. So we'll be using SO over here. Sine equals to opposite over hypotenuse. So sine theta equals to opposite over hypotenuse is going to be sine of 34 equals to x over 6.5 cross multiply So 6.5 times sine 34 equals to x. So now a very common question that I get from my students is that, like, when are we supposed to cross multiply? When are we supposed to take the inverse of the trig ratio? So remember, you will take the inverse when they're asking you to find the angle, not when they're asking you to find the length. And the cross multiplication happens when they have given you the hypotenuse. In case they have given you the opposite or adjacent and they want you to find the hypotenuse, then you will bring the sine value on the right-hand side and you will do division, not cross multiplication. So basically, just remember that whatever you're trying to find the value of, you have to make that the subject of the equation. And while you're trying to make that subject of the equation, you will automatically realize what you're supposed to do. Are you supposed to cross multiply? Are you supposed to divide? Or are you supposed to take the inverse? So now if we do 6.5 times sine 34, that equals to 3.6. Correct to 1 decimal place. That's your value of x. Then it says change a speed of w meters per second to a speed in kilometers per hour. Give your answer in terms of w in its simplest form. So we're changing a speed from meter per second to kilometers per hour. So W is meter per second. So if we want to change it into kilometers per hour, 1 kilometer equals to 1,000 meters. So if we go from meters to kilometers, we do 1 divided by 1,000 because we're going from a smaller unit to a bigger unit. Remember, if you're going from a smaller to a bigger unit, you divide. But if you're going from a bigger to a smaller, you multiply. And same for seconds. So 1 hour equals to 3,600 seconds. So 1 second is going to be 1 over 3,600 hours. So first, let's convert the W into kilometers. So that's going to be W over 1,000. And then for converting it into hours, we will times it by 3,600. So that's going to give us 36W over 10, which is 3.6 W. That's your answer in terms of W in its simplest form. Question 7 says the diagram shows a six-sided shape A, B, C, D, E, F. AF is given as 21 centimeters, CD is 15 centimeters, AB equals to EF. So let's highlight that. This equals to this, which is 13 centimeters. The perpendicular height of the shape is given as h centimeters. CD is parallel to AF. So this is parallel to this. The area of the shape is given as 390 centimeters square. Work out the value of h. So now if you look at this shape, if I split this shape into two different shapes, we can see that we have a trapezium at the top and we have a rectangle at the bottom. So 390 is basically equal to 13 times 21 plus area of the trapezium, which is 1 over 2 times the height. Now height over here is not going to be h, it's going to be h minus 13 times sum of parallel sides. Parallel sides are 15 and 21 because BE is the same as AF. So this is our equation for the area. Once again, we split the six-sided shape into two different shapes. The top part is the trapezium and the bottom part is a rectangle. Area of a rectangle has the formula of length times width. So that's going to be 13 times 21. And area of a trapezium has the formula of 1 over 2 times the height, which over here is going to be h minus 13, because this part is 13 and the entire length is h. So h minus 13 is the height of the trapezium times sum of parallel sides. Parallel sides are CD and BE, which are 15 and 21. Because BE is the same as AF. They're the same lengths. So now let's simplify this. 390 equals to 13 times 21, which is going to be 273 plus 15 plus 21 is 36. 36 divided by 2 times h minus 13. Now 390 minus 273 equals to 18 times h minus 13. 390 minus 273 is giving us 117. That's 18 times h minus 13. If we do 117 divided by 18, that gives us 6.5. So h is going to be 6.5 plus 13, which is equal to 19.5 centimeters. That's your value of h. Question 8 says that Ishwar plants 600 bulbs in a garden. He plants tulip bulbs, crocus bulbs, and daffodil bulbs so that number of tulip bulbs to number of crocus bulbs to number of daffodil bulbs is 9 to 4 to 2. 45% of the tulip bulbs are for yellow flowers, 8 of the crocus bulbs are for yellow flowers, and all of the daffodil bulbs are for yellow flowers. Work out the number of bulbs that are for yellow flowers. So he's planting 600 bulbs in total. So let's find the number of tulip, crocus, and daffodil bulbs first. So for tulip, it's going to be 9 over 15 times 600. Now, why is it 9 over 15? Because whenever we have a ratio given, the part assigned to tulip, that number is written in the numerator for the fraction, and denominator is the sum of numbers in the ratio. So 9 plus 4 plus 2 equals to 15. Hence for tulip is going to be 9 over 15 times 600, which gives us a value of 360. So we have 360 tulips. Then for crocus, that's going to be 4 over 15 times 600, which is going to be 160. And for daffodils, that's 2 over 15 times 600. That's 80. So these are the number of bulbs for tulips, crocus, and daffodils. Now 45% of the tulip bulbs are yellow flowers. So yellow tulips. So that's going to be 45 over 100 times 360, which gives us 162. 5/8 of the crocus are that, so crocus yellow is going to be 5 over 8 times 160, which is going to be 100. And lastly, all of the daffodil bulbs are for yellow flowers, so all of these 80 are yellow. So now the number of bulbs that are for yellow flowers, that's going to be total yellow flowers equals to the sum of 162, 100, and 80. That gives us 342. So that is your total number of bulbs for yellow flowers. So this was a very scoring 5-mark question if you do it step by step. First, you find the number of tulip, crocus, and daffodil flowers. Then for each of those categories, you find how many are for yellow for each of them. And once you have the value, it is once again very straightforward. You just add them up and that gives the total number of bulbs for yellow. And that gives the total number of bulbs for yellow flowers. Giovanni invests 45 in Karuna in a savings account for 4 years. he gets 2.4% per year compound interest. Work out how much money Giovanni will have in the savings account at the end of 4 years, giving your answer correct to the nearest karuna. So for this, we're going to use the compound interest formula. So compound interest formula is your principal amount times 1 plus r over 100, r being the rate of interest to the power of time. So he's investing 4,500, which is your principal amount. Rate of interest is 2.4. So 1 plus 2.4 over 100, and time period is 4 years. So remember, for the compound interest formula, it always gives you the final value after adding the interest. Whereas for the simple interest formula, it just gives you the interest that has been added. So once you have that interest amount, you add that to the initial value to get the final value in simple interest. In compound interest, the formula directly gives you the final value. That's going to give us 4,947.8. So round that to the nearest karuna. So that's going to be 4,948. That's your answer. Question 10 says solve the simultaneous equations, show clear algebraic working. So in this case, when you're solving simultaneous equations, you can either use the substitution method or the elimination method. In the case when the coefficient of x and y are both greater than 1, we always go for elimination method, because if we go for a substitution method, then we'll have fractions and it's going to be lengthy and time consuming to solve the equation. So for elimination, what we do is we pick the variable that we want to eliminate. Let's say I want to eliminate x. Why x? Because if you look at the coefficients of x, in the first equation, the coefficient of x is 6, whereas the second equation, coefficient of x is 3. So it's easier to turn 3 into 6 by multiplying it by 2, which means I'll multiply the second equation by 2. Remember, when you're using the elimination method, once you have decided which variable you want to eliminate, next step is to make sure that both the variables have the same coefficient. Hence, we're multiplying the second equation by 2 so that the coefficient of x becomes 6. So now we have 6x plus 10y equals to 16. And the other one was 6x plus 4y equals to 1. Now, since x has the same coefficient, now we need to check whether it has the same sign or opposite sign. Since in our case, x has the same sign, so for us to eliminate x, that means we need to subtract both the equations. Let's say it had opposite signs. One was positive and the other was negative. In that case, you will add the two equations. So remember, if the signs are opposite for the variable you want to eliminate, you will add them. If the signs are same for the variable you want to eliminate, you will subtract the equations. So in this case, we subtract them. So when you subtract the equations, 6x minus 6x, then plus 10y minus 4y, and then on the other side, 16 minus 1. 6x minus 6x is 0, 10y minus 4y is 6y, and 16 minus 1 is 15. So 6y equals to 15, y equals to 15 divided by 6, which simplifies to 5 over 2, or 2.5, however you want to write. Even as a mixed number, that's also fine. Now, once we have the value of y, we substitute back into either of the equations to get the value of x. Let's go with the first one. So substitute y equals to 5 over 2. So that's going to be 6x plus 4 times 5 over 2 equals to 1. That's 6x plus 2 times 5, because 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's 6x plus 10 equals to 1. 6x is going to be 1 minus 10, which is negative 9. So x is going to be negative 9 over 6, which simplifies to negative 3 over 2. So when y is 5 over 2, x turns out to be negative 3 over 2. So we could write these as decimals. That would be negative 1.5, and that's positive 2.5. Fractions would also be correct. Question 11 says that factorize x squared plus 9x minus 22. So to factorize this, you can either use the quadratic formula or you can use splitting the middle term. So if I use splitting the middle term, I multiply the quotient of x squared with the constant. So 1 times negative 22 is negative 22. Then we find factors of 22. Factors of 22 are 1 and 22 and 2 and 11. So we know that when we subtract 11 and 2, that gives us the middle term, which is 9. So we can easily use 11 minus 2 to replace the 9, which shows that we'll be splitting the middle term into other numbers. So that's going to be x squared plus 11x minus 2x minus 22. As you can see, the first and the last terms are exactly the same. Their signs are exactly the same. What's changing is that the middle term is split into 11x minus 2x. Now the next step is to factorize this. So we're going to factor by grouping. So we're going to split the equation into two groups, and then we're going to factorize those two groups separately. So between x squared and 11x, we have x common. So x bracket x plus 1. And between negative 2x and negative 22, we have negative 2 common. So again, x plus 11 in the bracket. Now, since both the brackets have the same terms and the same sign inside them, which means we can take the bracket common. So when you take x plus 11 common, we're left with x minus 2 in the second bracket. So this is your factorized form of this quadratic equation. Remember, when they say factorize, they're not asking for the value of x. They're asking you to convert the quadratic equation in terms of brackets. Now, next part says hence solve. Whenever they use the word hence, that means they want you to use your answer from the previous part, which means you don't have to do the entire calculation again. You just have to pick the answer from the previous part, put that equal to 0, because the only difference between the equation in part 1 and part 2 is that in part 2 it's equal to 0 now. Hence, your x plus 11 times x minus 2 is now equal to 0. You can split the brackets and put both of them equal to 0 separately. So x equals to negative 11 and x equals to 2. If you're someone who doesn't know why we're splitting them and putting them equal to 0, is because when you multiply two things and the result is 0, either of these brackets could equal to 0. We don't know whether it's x minus 2 that's equal to 0 or whether it's x plus 11 equal to 0. So to avoid that confusion, we put both the brackets equal to 0. And that gives us the value of x, which is negative 11 and 2. If you put negative 11 back into the brackets, the first bracket becomes 0. If you put x equals to 2 back into the equation, the second bracket equals to 0, which gives the total answer equal to 0. So this is the logic behind putting the brackets equal to 0, because we don't know which one equals to 0. But the answer, the product of the brackets always comes out as 0. So that's how you get your values. So x equals to negative 11 and x equals to 2. Question 12 says, Ali uses a fitness tracker to count the number of steps he walks each day for 7 days. For the first 4 days, his mean number of steps is 11,800. For the next 3 days, his mean number of steps is 13,207. Work out his mean number of steps for the 7 days. So for the first 4 days, sum of steps for 4 days divided by 4 equals to 11,800. So when you cross multiply, that gives us the sum of steps. for 4 days. 11,800 times 4, which equals to 47,200. Now we're going to do the same thing for the next 3 days. So sum of steps for next 3 days divided by 3 equals to 13,207. So again, cross multiply sum of 3 days. I'm just going to write this. So that's 13,207 times 3, which equals to 39,621. They want the mean number of steps for the 7 days. So you just add the two sums, 47,200 plus 39,621. Total number of days is going to be 7 now. And that gives us the mean as 12,403. That is the mean number of steps for the 7 days.